Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy CaptainJackAttack, once again back with another Super Striker League video. Today we are going to be ranking from worst to best, the best tackles that you can get. In Super Striker League, I will be ranking them according to my preference and also my experience of the game of over a year now. You all seem to really enjoy the Deke video, and some of you actually wanted me to do one on tackles, so here we are. Before we start with the rankings, make sure you smack the like. Don't forget to also subscribe as well. This may help out a bunch of new players, especially if they're not sure which tackle is going to be good for them, or if they don't even know what the tackles do. So make sure you definitely smack the like so more new players can see the video and be helped by it as well. So jumping right into it, we got the worst tackle in my opinion, and that's going to be the long dive. The long dive at 7,500 cash. It's a long distance tackle. The idea of the long dive is not bad, but there's way too many cons that outweigh the pros. But I'll go over the pros first. It's a long distance tackle, so you'll be able to get people from a pretty far distance without having to be close to them, which is good. And there's also a pretty quick wind-up time, so that way people actually won't be anticipating your tackles, especially with the long dive, which is really nice. But like I said, there's way too many cons that outweigh the pros, and it's going to be a pretty long list, but we're going to start off with the high stamina usage. You can't do too many of these long dives in a row, man. You can only do like 2, maybe 3 tops if you have the gear necessary to do so. There's a long animation runtime as well. It takes so long just to do one tackle, and the timing that you do one long dive, you can do like 2 normal tackles in the same time that it takes to do one long dive. That's pretty crazy. Especially in a game like Super Striker League, timing is absolutely crucial and critical, so it just takes too long to do a tackle. The long tackling distance can also be a con too, because if you miss your tackle, you're going to be way out of the area because of that long distance tackle. So that pretty much means you get a sprint back to catch up to the other players just because you missed a long distance tackle. It's also the second most expensive tackle in the game, and due to its usability, for 7,500 cash, it's just not worth it with all these cons, man. And that's not even the killer deal. This is going to be the worst part of the long dive. The tackle downtime. And what I mean by that is once you do a tackle with the long dive, you get a second or even 2 seconds in which opponents can time your tackle in your most vulnerable state and be able to steal the ball away from you, even though you got the tackle with the long dive. And that is the deal breaker right there. That is why the long dive is the absolute worst tackle in the game. It's definitely not worth it, just because of that one flaw alone, which is pretty shocking, honestly. The second worst tackle in Super Striker League that you can get, in my opinion, is going to be the Dropkick. The Dropkick is going to cost 15,000 cash, and it's another long distance tackle as well. Starting to notice the pattern here? I do. We'll start off with the pros for the Dropkick. So it's another long distance tackle, so that means you don't have to be too close to your opponents if you want to get a tackle and steal the ball, which is pretty good. It's a quick, speedy tackle. You cover that distance in a relatively short time, so it's not too bad. It doesn't take as long as a long dive. And the Dropkick also does a pretty good amount of damage and stun time as well. It pretty much pushes the players away, like pretty far away, honestly. It just knocks them out, and it stuns them for a pretty long time as well. Now for the cons, it's the most expensive tackle of the game for 15,000 cash. That is pretty expensive for a tackle, not gonna lie. You'll have to be playing the game for quite a bit in order to save up that amount of cash so you can get the tackle itself. Another con to the Dropkick is that it has a short wind-up period, so you're pretty much going to let your opponents know when you're going to be tackling, and they might do a last-second twitch with their movement so they can try to dodge your Dropkick, which can be annoying at times. Another con is that they have a super high stamina usage. Obviously, you can't do any more than like 2 Dropkicks in a row. Again, another con, if you miss, because of the long distance tackle, you're pretty much going to be outside the war zone, so you're gonna have to catch up with your sprint if you want to catch up with your opponents once again if you miss your tackle. And there's also a tackle downtime once again, but it's not as long as a long dive, so it's a little bit more manageable. Pretty much the Dropkick is like a more expensive and flashier version of the long dive, but at least it's a little better than the long dive in my opinion. Next up, we got the third worst tackle in the game, or otherwise known as the second best tackle to have in the game, and that is going to be the knockout hit. So the knockout hit is basically a football tackle. It's going to run you about 5,000 cash, and There's actually quite a bit of pros to this tackle. It's a pretty good tackle to have. The first pro is that it's going to be the quickest tackle in the game. It's just a little shimmy shank kind of thing. Like, you're pretty much going to be knocking somebody out with that really quick tackle. It uses average stamina just like the normal tackle, which is really good. So that means you can do like 3 of these tackle, maybe even 4 of them, depending on your gear. It's the second cheapest tackle in the game. It's only 5,000 cash. You can save that up just by ranking up to like level, level 13 or something like that. You can save it up pretty early on in the game. It does big damage to opponents. They get stunned for such a long time, about as much as the Dropkick, which is really, really good. Virtually, there's no downtime to this tackle as well because it's such a short and quick movement. It's going to be hard for your opponents to tackle you down after you do a knockout hit and you steal the ball. So that's really, really good. And it's also a short distance hit, so it can be less punishing. If you miss a tackle, you won't be able to you won't be too far out of the zone in order to catch up to your opponents, which is really good. There's one con to this in my opinion, and it's a pretty bad con. So the short distance tackle is a pro, but can also be a major con as well, because that means you gotta stay close to the ball at all times. So if you want to use that knockout hit, that means you pretty much have to play really tight defense in order to get that tackle to even happen. So you can't be too far away from your opponents. It's actually pretty good because it teaches you how to play Super Strike League aggressively, aggressive defense and everything like that, which is really good. Sometimes you have to be aggressive in certain situations. And last up, we got my favorite tackle in the game, in my opinion, the best tackle in the game. We got the slide tackle. Go back to basics, man. For the best price in the game for a tackle, it's a free price. That means you start off with a tackle when you first start the game, which is honestly the best thing in the world. It has average stamina usage, so you can do like 3 to 4 tackles in a row. Really, really good stamina usage. As you tackle, you get good distance as well. And what I mean by that is, as you're stealing the ball with your tackle, you can actually get quite a bit of distance away from the opponents when you're doing your tackle, which is really good. It's kind of like a built-in deke into one. It's better than the long dive and the drop kick in this regard because it's just a quicker tackle in general, and players won't be able to react quick enough before you're able to deke away. Another really good pro with the slide tackle is that sometimes you can tackle into players as they shoot, and you can actually get a block. And which is really good about the slide tackle because due to the tackle distance, you can pretty much angle yourself pretty easily in those situations, so you can achieve that. And sometimes it might count as a block, but the game will actually count as a block, which is kind of weird. The game would kind of call it as like a deflection of sorts, which is really funny. Now, even the best tackles have cons as well. And one major con is that it does have a slight tackle downtime, so especially if you're new to the game, especially with low-level gear, people are going to be able to time your tackles, so they're going to be able to steal the ball away from you. But you can change that and pretty much negate that pretty easily just by upgrading your gear and being able to do dekes and being able to have speed on your gear as well, so that way you can react quick enough. It's also why Cindering added in that tackle invincibility thing, like those little sparkles after you get a tackle, because people would always abuse that in beta, so they had to fix that. Also, another con, it's not a major one, but everybody has this tackle, so there's pretty much no surprise factor there. Like, everybody's seen this tackle before, they know how it works, so you just gotta keep that into accountability as well. But yeah, that's going to be my list from worst to best, the best tackles in Super Striker League, and that's accounting for price, usability, and also game awareness too. Like, all the pros that I play with, they usually use the slide tackle, they also use the knockout hit as well. They don't really use the other 2 tackles. So, like, the main 2 tackles that pros use in higher level gameplay, they use the slide tackle and the knockout hand. That's pretty much it. But if this video helped you guys out, make sure you smack that like. Don't forget to also subscribe as well. More videos are yet to come, so we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.